Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
Welcome, Michele.
Thank you for having me.
Super excited to have you today. I have Michele C. Hollow. She is the author of Jurassic Girl, The Adventures of Mary Anning, the mother of paleontologists. And this is a middle grade book for kids ages 8 to 12, correct?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about the book and Mary's story.
Okay. I work as a journalist and I mainly write health and I write a lot about animals. I'm a big animal lover. And a few of my readers a while ago told me about Mary Anning and I had never heard of her. She's well known in the UK. Last year they came out with a Mary Anning postage stamp out there. The fact that this girl, this was in 1811, discovered this 17-foot fossil that no one knew what it was. This was at a time when extinction was a new concept because people believed species did not die out. And obviously they did. And she came from a very poor family. When she was 5, her father gave her a lot of his tools, sharp implements to take the dirt off the fossils, and taught her how to fossil hunt. They lived in the poor part of town. Her father was not an upholsterer, he was a cabinet maker. And he didn't love his job. If he had his desires, he would be at the beach, at the seaside, every day fossil hunting. But he taught Mary how to fossil hunt. And it sounded like, from the research I've done a lot of digging because I work as a journalist, as I said, and I know research is like my favorite part of the process. And I I read a couple of books about her. The Fossil Hunter was very, very helpful. And I had learned that her home was turned into a museum. It's the Lyme Regis Museum, and they have a Mary Anning wing, which is about 3-4 years old. So I reached out to the researchers there and asked if I could send them questions, and it was going a lot of back and forth with my many, many questions. And they were very kind. They answered everything. So.
Oh, neat. That's great. So tell me a little bit about the book and what part of her life it spans.
I focused on her first major fossil find before finding the 17-foot Ichthyosaurus. It's part fish. It translates to lizard fish. And her home was on the Jurassic Coast in the UK. She had, before this, found small little fossils that they could be animals or plant fossils that she sold to tourists to earn money and help support her family. She said they were very, very poor. And I had learned that they ate a lot of porridge. It was very rare to have meat in their meals. And she really did help support her family. And at age 12, that's the area that I focused on. Right before that and up through her major fossil find, she finds this major fossil. And first she finds the head, and then she finds the body. And she, with the help from her brother James as well, he was a few years older and he worked as an upholstery apprentice. He helped her, but she was the one that uncovered it, and the fossils buried in the hills, in the cliffs of Lyme Regis. But when she found it, a lot of the men in the scientific community said, "Oh, no, it's impossible. You're a girl, you're poor." Women were not well known in science back then. And it's interesting because I've given a few book talks at schools, And some of the kids, like fourth and fifth graders, come up to me at the end. I'm not kidding, with fists raised. These are girls, fists raised, saying girl power, because they know now that sometimes things can be difficult if you want to advance as, female. So that is tough. But I loved her story. I loved Mary's story, and I wanted to tell it. And I did. As I said, I read The Fossil Hunter. I sent lots of questions to the researchers at the Lyme Regis Museum. I just read about dinosaurs and ichthyosaurs, and it's fascinating. It's nice when you're working on something and you're constantly learning. That's what I liked about journalism. It's kind of like being in school full time all the time, because there's always something to learn. And just interviewing people, I'm usually on the other side of this, and I'm more comfortable that way. And I just like asking questions and finding out, why do people do what they do. It's fascinating to me. And she was pretty spunky. And when the men in the scientific community, especially the head, Georges Cuvier of the Geological Society in London, he was like, nope, it's impossible. This girl couldn't have done this. And he sent some scientists to interview her. She was incredibly smart. And she became friends with an older woman. There was like maybe 9-10 year age difference, Elizabeth Philpott, who was an amateur fossil hunter. And she was well-to-do. She had a lot of connections. She knew a lot of the men in the Geological Society. And she helped Mary fight to get the recognition that she deserved. What was disappointing, and especially for her, was when she sold the fossil to this man in town, he got credit in the scientific journals as the founder. So she had to prove that it really was her.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's disappointing that she had to fight for that credit, but I'm glad that she did and that you were able to write a book about her. I think I saw that you've written a number of middle grade books. Is that kind of your passion for that age group?
I like that age group. I find that the kids are very interested. I've done a lot of the books that I've done were works for hire. So I got hired to write a story about, like I wrote a book about careers that you could have with animals. Again, big animal lover out here. And talking to people about their work and what they do is just fascinating. And I was able to, you get paid for your work and then it's done. This was my first book that was agented, and I was very lucky. I found a lovely agent, and he's stuck with me. And I am working on another book, also historical fiction. That is also one of my favorite genres. I just find, especially if it's based on a true fiction is fascinating, but seeing what somebody's done, that is to me amazing, something, incredible. And here's this 12-year-old girl that she organized a dig to get the ichthyosaurus out of the cliffs. Not a small task.
Definitely. I mean, did she have to get ladders and like all of these different implements to?
There's no way climbing the cliffs and finding, first finding one part and then finding the second part. I did not know this until recently, that the dinosaurs that we see at the museums were not 100% all of their bones. It's like, it could be 75, it could be 50%, it could be 25%, whatever, and the other parts are man-made. I just went to the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, and they have a stegosaurus that is something like, I think it's about 85 or 95% actual dinosaur. So,
And it seems like sometimes they might even take things from different places and put them together, right? I mean, that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a funny story related to this. So, always big into animals and being outdoors as a young girl too. And one time when I grew up in South Georgia, we were hiking and I ran across and oh, now I'm blanking that little animal, an armadillo skeleton. So, and it was mostly there, like the spine was there and lots of ribs were there and the head was there and it was all kind of just laid out perfectly. And so, and they were pretty clean bones. So I took them and I cleaned them up and I wired them all together, but it wasn't quite complete. So my mother, being the amazing person that she is, she
Mhm.
actually got an armadillo off the side of the road.
Wow.
She buried it like in a plastic bag, thinking it would kind of decompose and then we could have all the bones. The problem came, you have to wait a long time for an armadillo to decompose.
Mhm.
So, like the next year, we unburied it and it was still like a lot of meat on it and it smelled horrific, as you can imagine. And I decided, Mom, it's okay. I don't need this.
It's not like in the movies where the next scene
No,
is full of
yeah,
bones.
that was my brush with being a paleontologist.
Mhm. It's a fascinating field. I got to write an article for, I occasionally write for us health columns for Next Avenue. It's a website online that covers elder health and caregiving. And I got to interview a paleontologist about taking your grandkids on a geological tour and going fossil hunting. And this woman, she's originally from from South Jersey, and she said every kid loves dinosaurs. I mean, my kid, I don't know if you could see this. This was one of his toys when he was little. Um, you know, dinosaurs are really important to children. And then we go through a phase and we learn about them in school for a short while, very, very, like maybe a couple of weeks in elementary school. And then we move on to other things and we forget. And this paleontologist told me she went to New Jersey. It was close to New York at one of the museums, the Science Museum, where they had this onyx dinosaurs. And she just fell in love with dinosaurs all over again and decided she was going to major. She was in high school at the time. She was going to go to college and become a paleontologist. And she's now living out in Montana. And she goes to she is a paleontologist. And she was telling me about her worst day on the job. She said, you're out in this huge field, huge field, and it starts to hail. So you cover yourself with this blue tarp, and then she finds these bones, these dinosaur bones, and she said, these are her words, dag nabbit, how am I going to lift this out of here? These are huge. So she marked the site and got a crew to come and pick up the bones. But I thought, can you imagine being at work and having that be your worst day?
Well, at least she found some bones. At least it was worth it to be out there, right?
That is fantastic. That is such a good day.
That is a great day. That's amazing.
Yeah. So the fact that Mary Anning was out there on the beach, rain or shine, she loved the sea. Like her father had to teach her, like you can't stay out there all day. And also when the tide comes in, you have to get out of the way. And then there are falling rocks, and she just had to be very careful. She had a dog named Trey, and the dog always accompanied her. And her friend Elizabeth Philpott also came with her occasionally, or they met at the beach. And she just loved digging. She knew what to look for, which is pretty amazing because, you find a rock and how do you know there's something in there? You're lucky if there's a piece sticking out, but there's a chance that it's not. So she was looking to see that, yes, this is a real fossil. And she was able to support her family by selling fossils.
And did she do that all her life?
Yes, she later on discovered other creatures. Uh, this was her passion. That's why she is known as the mother of paleontology, because she did do this, and she never left Lyme Regis. But there, I mean, it's the Jurassic Coast. There, that's where a lot of the dinosaurs and water creatures live. So she was able to make earn a living and do what she loved. Because, you know, it would, in the best of all possible worlds, it would be great if we could all do what we love.
Yes, yes, definitely. It sounds
Mhm.
like you have created that for yourself as a journalist and now fiction author. And you said you're working on another book. What is that project?
Yes. It's also historical fiction. I don't know if you know Stubby. He was one of the first service dogs in who served in World War One.
Oh,
I knew nothing about, you know, just the basics about the war. I just never followed war or watched war movies. Um, he was found at a base camp in Connecticut. Actually, it was Yale University's area, right on Yale University, which was a base camp because at the beginning of the war, when the Americans got involved, there were base camps set up all over the country. And J. Robert Conroy went to enlisted, and he would walk from his first day on at base camp. He would walk to the mess tent, and there would be a bunch of stray dogs outside. You know, they were hoping to catch the scraps from came out with food. And Conroy really fell in love with this dog. He was very attached to the dog. So when it came time for him to deploy to France, he smuggled Stubby aboard, and this was dangerous because if the dog got found, he could have been thrown overboard. You didn't bring dogs to the war. There was talk that in the UK they were starting to train service dogs. You've heard of bomb sniffing dogs, and dogs have a better sense of smell than we do, so they can smell the gas attacks before we do. So he saved his troop many times. He captured a German spy. He saved his troop from a gas attack. He was honored by 3 U.S. presidents. His body actually is stuffed. Taxidermy is kind of freaky to me. Anyway, I just feel that way. And but if you go to the American History Museum in DC, there is an exhibit, and you can actually see Stubby's body there. And people go, they line up, and they pay homage to the men and this dog. There's also in that same exhibit is a pigeon called Chez Ami, which is dear friend, and the pigeon was would send no the soldiers would put notes on the pigeon's leg, and would send this was a way for them to get messages from one to the other. And so the pigeon is there too. And but it's I had the honor of I went to DC, and I had asked if I could, and they let me go into the archives, and I spent going through this soldier's journal and scrapbook. So I read a whole lot of newspaper articles, and read this soldier's notes, and got the names of the people that served with him. It's historical fiction, so not everything. Same thing with Jurassic Girl. I was not able to interview Mary Anning because obviously this was 1811. I wish I had a time machine, but that doesn't work. So I made up all the dialogue. And in my introduction on like the first page, it says all of the dialogue. This is based in fact, but I did create all of the dialogue because I wanted it to read like a story. I love biographies. I think they're fascinating. You learn a whole lot about people, but I enjoy reading stories more. So the historical fiction has the fact. And as I said, I was up front. The journalist in me said, no, you have to tell everybody you made this up. So,
right, yeah. And especially, I mean, I think a lot of people love to learn by reading stories, and young and old, right?
mhm.
Because that gets us emotionally invested in what's happening in your book. So I think sometimes it can be more powerful as putting having like that fictionalized account in there. So you're getting into the emotion of the person and what they achieved.
Exactly. Exactly.
And is this next book also the middle grade for middle grade ages?
Yes, I like that age group. They're curious. They seem to be. There's nothing written about for them about this dog, about Mary Anning. The that I read about Mary Anning were for adults. I mean, anybody could read them. I just think it's important that kids know, and the fact that Mary was 12, I think girls and boys can relate. And I do have her brother in there, and Mary was a lot like her father, very responsible, but also a dreamer, where her mother and brother were more, no, 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 we have to do this now, and we have to do it this way, and a little more rigid. And I don't mean that in a negative way. She was not thrilled when her husband gave Mary sharp tools and knives for the fossil hunting. And Richard, her father, would have probably given them to her at age 3, but her mother was like, no, we're not doing that. So she had to wait till age 5 to fossil hunt. And I mean, she accompanied her dad, but her mom said no until when she was 5, she was able to do that. And it was
Well,
good.
voices of reason are good in those cases. Sometimes
Mhm.
I don't, yeah, I'm trying to remember like when I first let my kids cut up vegetables when I was making them, right? But
Mhm.
it wasn't 3, definitely not 3.
No. Mhm. Now, also, I mean, my kids, they went through that dinosaur phase. I really like young kids. I'm very comfortable around them. And I think that they should know about Mary Anning. I mean, I would like the whole world to know about Mary Anning because, as I said, I really truly find her special and fascinating. And then with Stubby the dog, I'd like everybody to know about Stubby as well because the dog saved so many people. Um, and I've written art about servicemen and veterans that have service dogs, and every single veteran said to me, it's the dog. If it wasn't for this dog, I might not be alive. This
Wow.
dog saved my life. And a lot of them believe that it's all dog. And I'm like, no, it's not all, it's you too, because if you want to get a service dog, you have to be in the process, you have to be part of the whole process of training that dog. You're pulled in not at the very beginning stage, but you are before you take that dog home.
Right.
And
Yeah. I was just interviewing another author who is blind and has had service dogs all his life, it sounds, or, since he was old enough to have a service dog. And he was in the Twin Towers during 9/11. And he's told his story and written several books about him and his dog. And he says, I don't want to be mean about this, but usually people say, my dog saved me. He's like, no, we're a team, number one. And
Mhm.
number two, I had practiced every exit route out of that building before, not even knowing that 9/11 obviously was going to happen. I had practiced every exit route out of that building because I was in charge of the people in my company, and I was in charge of knowing that they were safe, and I was in charge of me and knowing where to go. He's like, so sight people take for granted that you're going to be able to see an exit sign. He's like, but I didn't have to see the exit signs. I knew where they were. My dog knew where they were, and he knew how to get out, and his dog could help him get out safely, right? So he had definitely that attitude of like, okay, well, the dog is helping me do what I want to do, but I'm still telling the dog where I want to go, right?
Mhm.
So the dog is just telling me what's in my way or if something's in my way. So that was an interesting discussion we had.
It's definitely, yeah, it's definitely a team effort. It really is. But getting back to Mary, I mean, and she had her dog also at her side. as a companion. I mean, spending days, and you have to think also what she wore back then. Women did not wear pants. They wore long dresses, like ankle-length dresses and boots and bonnets. And the bonnets, I guess, were really good to protect you from the sun. But can you imagine being out for hours, like 8 hours a day, digging in the sand and, right by the shore, and in this, or climbing the cliffs in this long dress? It just seems much more difficult. And she didn't seem to care that she would get mud in her fingernails. It's just, she really relished the hunt. She loved fossil hunting.
That's an amazing story. Yeah, I think for anybody that dedicates themselves to something like that seems so hard. Like, I'm just thinking I would have died without my music.
Hmm?
I need to be listening to music or a podcast or a book or something because my mind can't focus. So
No, but it's important to have something. I mean, I have a cat, and I'm very happy. I come home and she's very affectionate, and or just going out and taking a walk, having the animals, seeing dogs on the street, or having any kind of interaction. It's important, and we know what makes us happy, and we really need to do what makes us happy.
right.
That's important. So.
Well, tell everyone where we can find you and your books.
The book is at bookstore. Not there, you can ask for it. It's at Barnes and Noble. It's on Amazon. It's at bookshop.org, which I love because they support local bookstores. I know it's in my local bookstore. It's wherever, if you go to the bookstore, you can order it, or at the library too.
I was going to say for parents
yeah.
are
Yeah,
going to the I remember going to the library every week with my kids. So
Mhm. Yeah, no, the librarians are really, really helpful out here. They are terrific. And I'm on Blue Sky a lot. I have a Facebook page. I just started Instagram, which I'm trying to figure out. What else? LinkedIn. And that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, I have a site called JurassicGirl.com.
JurassicGirl.com. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Mhm. Yeah, my husband designed that for me. He's the tech.
Very fun.
So,
Well, I love your cover too. It's very catchy and fun.
the Ulysses Press did it. They were terrific. I was thrilled when I saw it. They were just wonderful. So, and they even said, "Do you want any changes?" And they actually, we made one little change because the Ichthyosaurus head was round, and it actually has a long snout with big sharp teeth. It was a pretty ferocious, kind of scary looking creature.
Fun. Well, thank you so much for being here. Your book, Jurassic Girl, it's super for that age group, ages 8 to 12. So people can, and did you say your website? I lost.
It's JurassicGirl.com.
JurassicGirl.com. Yes. Thank you very much for being here. And we hope you'll come back when you release your next book on Stubby.
Thank you, Tricia. Thank you so much. Okay.
Nice meeting you. Bye.
Yes. Bye. Should
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.